My name is Ruchinilo, and like many of you, I've been gripped by the doomsday-like facts and figures that are being thrown at us regularly these days about the looming food and water crisis. Top researchers tell us that the world is becoming a hungrier place. Globally, almost 1 billion people needs to eat better and more nutritious food. FAO estimates that we need to produce 70% more food by 2050 if we want to feed the world. In a powerful TED Talk earlier last year, Sarah Menker predicted that this crisis is coming sooner, just in a decade. In India, the situation seemed even more grave. Our country is one of the hungriest and most undernourished in the world. Despite our rich agricultural history, we are predicted to become a net importer of food within the next decade. The carrying capacity of our agricultural land is 529 million people, except it somehow has to feed more than double that amount, over 1.2 billion. The problem runs deeper. Not only is our food production lagging behind, our ecology has undergone dramatic levels of destruction in the country and globally. Only 5% of river water remains in stream in most rivers now. 69% of the world land is degraded by soil erosion, water degradation, and biodiversity loss. These two issues are connected. Agriculture, especially as practiced in current farming culture, is highly extractive of surrounding ecosystems. It uses up to 70% of groundwater in the world today, contributes to over 13% of greenhouse gases we are trying to reduce. Every farm draws from the surrounding ecology heavily. The more intensive and fertilizer pesticide dependent, the more extractive it becomes of its ecosystem. The corollary of the problem also holds true. The more degraded an ecosystem is, the more farming suffers and need to depend on invasive chemicals, ultimately caught in a destructive loop. So the challenge ahead of us is not just how do we feed the world, but also how do we feed the world but save the earth. We are not just need we not just need to increase agriculture production swiftly, but increasingly need to do so in an environmentally sustainable manner. It's a twin problem, and I believe that it must not be viewed in isolation with each other. Preoccupied with this question, I joined SBI's Rural Fellowship Program to experiment solutions in my own small ways. Given my own tribal Naga roots, I was naturally inclined to other Adivasi areas in the country. This took my journey towards Udaipur district in southern Rajasthan. Not known to many areas, the rural areas in this part are primarily populated with Bhina, Bhil, Garasya, Adivasi groups. I was fortunate to have Seva Mandir's Natural Resource team host my fellowship. Seva Mandir, a civil society institution, has been working with the communities in the area for over half a century. I couldn't find a better testing ground for my ideas. I was placed at Seva's block office in Kotra. It was all very exciting. Kotra had the reputation of being the Badlands of southern Rajasthan, the Sajai Kalapani of older days. Soon enough, I learned how different the conditions of farmer were in the area, compared to back home in Nagaland. Over 90% of the Adivasis in Udaipur district were marginal or at best small farmers. I heard stories and devout research about the dramatic decline in farming and forest produce that the communities had experienced in the last few decades. Just one generation back, the food grown by these households was enough for big families to live on, but now, food from their farms would finish even before half the year passes. As I learned more about this area, my desperation to look for solutions grew. In my first few months, I attended many farmers' training sessions and made visits to their farm. The information provided at the training seemed like good, well-researched technical inputs, and farmers expressed the commitment to apply the training in the farms at every session I attended. But soon, something seemed amiss in all this, and my restlessness grew. I felt like I needed a different approach altogether. I figured out that I was too distant from the farmers, a total outsider to their everyday lives and dilemmas. Not sure of the alternatives, I decided to just leave the cozy block office and go in and live in Medi with Ramlal, one of the farmers I had met through Seva Mandir. I lived in Medi for months. For some time, I put the project in the back burner. So taken by Ramlal's stories, laughed and warmed, I just spent my days hanging out with him and his friends in the village, enjoying their incredible company. I was lost in another world, living, eating, drinking, and meandering around their fields with them for days on end. I observed I observed them while they worked in their farms, gave a hand with the weeding, tilling the soil, sowing, etc. I observed that the farmers did not really use much of the information they were provided during the training, or ever mention it, even though they looked so sincere about using it during the meetings. What was happening? Did they forget the tips and the techniques? Was it too hard for them to follow? Was it an information overload? Battling my confusion, I asked Ramlal why the farmers don't apply the useful information provided at the trainings. Matter of fact, he said, जानकारी क्या काम है? मैं 3 बीघे में क्या कर लूंगा? आसपास की पानी, मिट्टी, वातावरण सब नष्ट हो गया है. 6 से 7 महीने का अनाज मिल जाता है. उससे ज्यादा क्या उपज हो सकता है आप? His statement was like a eureka moment for me. Through his casual remark, offered a powerful critique of our he offered a powerful critique of our method, not just on our simplistic faith in Jankari Dena, but also our limited view of looking at farm and food production in isolation with its surrounding ecosystem. I pursued this thought and tried to develop ways to work around these ideas. I discussed and developed ideas with Ramlal and other farmers in the area and my seniors at the NRD team at Seva's head office. Over a period of time, we collaboratively came up with an experimental solution called agri-digital clinics. So, what are agri-digital clinics? How does it work? We conceptualize agri-digital clinic as a one-stop solution for small and marginal farmers to improve farm output in an environmentally sustainable manner. The infrastructure of the clinic includes a physical office at the village level supported by a Krishi Karyakarta, a local farmer who has been given basic training in improved agricultural practice, data entry and collection. Every village level clinic has one smartphone and with a web-based application connecting farmers in the area to agricultural researchers and trainers from universities and government research and training institutions. So how does this app and clinic work? Let me illustrate using the example of Chikla village where we piloted the project with the support of local farmer Mala, who became our local Krishi Karyakarta. Step 1. Mala and our team went around mobilizing all the farmers in the community, sharing about the clinic, the functioning of the app and our vision of increasing farm output in the village while slowly restoring its supporting ecology through sustainable practices. It took some time, but eventually over 80% of the farmers in the village registered with the clinic. Step 2. With some training, Mala went around and collected detailed information about each farm on soils, cropping pattern, water levels, pests and insect species, water uses, crop production and other important variables for farm output. Mala entered all the data in the app, making a profile for every farm in the village, just like health profile with all the vital information about the patient's body and medical history. When all the data from the farm is aggregated, it produces a detailed ecosystem map that constitutes in-depth information, not just about individual farms, but also about the surrounding ecology, the flow of the water table in the village, soil type, topography, biodiversity, etc. Step 4. Whenever a farmer has a query on farming practice, he or she approaches the clinic, which is very accessible and within the village area. They use the app to input their query, which is then forwarded by a central team to an appropriate agricultural expert. Along with the question, the expert receives a full report of the farm in question and the surrounding ecology that supports the farm from our cloud database. This allows the experts to provide contextualized solutions with greater precision based on the soil type, water table supporting the farmer, microorganisms in the soil, etc. The expert can speak to the farmer via phone to understand the situation better. This enables the farmer to receive advice on practices that are feasible for his or her solution. Not just that, it facilitates farming decisions that suits the ecology of the area. For example, sowing crops that do not extract groundwater at an unsustainable level or change the chemical composition of the soil in a negative way, etc. Step 5. A very important element of the overall design of agri-clinics is its focus on facilitating long-term community-level investment in restoring local ecology. Once the village ecosystem map is produced, the Krishi Karyakata hold collective meetings of farmers and shares information on the state of ecology. In a participatory way, the group decides on collective and individual steps that would slowly enhance their natural resource base. There are typical there are typical there are typically several government schemes that can support such initiatives, and the Krishi Karyakata helps in facilitating such linkages as well. So this is a basic model of an agri-clinic. Starting from Chikla, we have now tested with 3,000 small and marginal farmers across 25 district villages in the district. Seeing the potential of the project, now NABARD has collaborated with us and Adaptation Fund Board is supporting the project. I do not mean to claim the process works like a magic pill. The community of farmers have very precarious livelihoods, so they can be resistant to such ambitious sounding plans. However, will the local community-driven base of the project is well suited to navigate these challenges. Just in Medi cluster, 270 farmers registered with the clinic have shifted from invasive crops like BD cotton to growing vegetables and grains that support the nutrition needs of the family. Output and income have increased across our base of 3,000 farmers. The project is in its third year now. In addition to scaling up, we are looking for ways to work on forward and backward linkages in the agriculture value chain. One attempt towards this has been working on market linkages. We have set up local collection points where farmers can aggregate their surplus produce. It is then sold to farmer producer companies or to national commodities exchange. In some villages, farmers are coming together at a community level to invest in transportation and storage facilities. Many initiatives in agriculture use agriculture technology at the centerpiece. Often it is driven by procurement needs of big agri-businesses in which small and marginal farmers might find themselves disadvantaged. The model of agri-clinic is a belief that it is the small and marginal farmers that are best suited to deliver the environmentally sustainable agricultural leap we are looking for. And the system works well when it is able to activate the farmer community, not just individual producers. Technology is an aid that facilitates. Thank you.